Michelle DeJesus. I am a student support specialist here at Southern, as well as a program director with communities and schools. So tonight we're going to talk about vaping. It's a growing epidemic all over the nation, and we're starting to see that at some of our high schools in Nash County. So first we're going to talk about vaping. Like, what is a vape? What is an e-cigarette? So basically, a vape, or some people call it E-Cigs or dabs, is an electronic device, and it heats up liquid and produces aerosol, as well as, which is not up here, has a mixture of vitamin E as well as nicotine or either THC, depending on what students are using. And that is the vitamin E with the mixture of drugs are infecting their lungs, and that's why we're having so many cases of collapsed lungs around the nation. So they are most commonly used with tobaccos among middle and high school students. So when we ask our middle and high school students, like, what's their drug of choice, about 48% of students are vaping. And the sad thing about it, we don't know what they're vaping. We don't know because we can't smell tobacco because it's air coming out. We're not sure if they're vaping tobacco, nicotine, or a mixture of both, which can be deadly. All right, so this is just to give you guys some references of different types of vape or dab pens or electronic cigarettes. The most commonly used vape is a Juul, and it's because it's very small. Students can get away with it, and it actually looks like a USB cord or a flash drive. Yeah, a flash drive. But these are also other types. These are dab pens. So dab pens, if you ever hear anybody saying they want a dab or juice, they are talking about using a vape or using an electronic cigarette. These are kind of bigger, more like, I don't want to say this, like older people would use this one just because they're bigger. And these are more, you can hide these. So this is what our students are using. These are dab pens. These are Juuls. There is a difference. With these, you can inject juice into the pen. So you just get a pen and you can buy juice online and inject juice into the pen and smoke. Whereas Juuls, you go to the gas station and you combine. They know what's in these, whereas if they're buying these online, they really don't know what they're buying. Okay, so about 2,000 kids every day are trying their first cigarette or nicotine product. More and more students are not going towards the tobacco cigarette, but they're going towards a vape. About 1 in every 13 youth are currently a smoker by the time they leave high school. Nearly 90% of adult smokers will use or start using before the age of 18. So this is a statistic from beginning 2019. In the past year, which is 2018, vaping among teenagers has increased by 78%. And it's increasing because of the flavors. So I'm talking about juice. They call them juice because the flavors are like juice. You've got cotton candy, you've got fruit punch, you've got waffles and syrup. These flavors are appealing to students because if you say, hey, do you smoke? Most of them are like, no, I don't smoke cigarettes. Cigarettes are nasty. But if a friend is offering them a dab pen, hey, this is like Fruity Tooty, or this is waffles and syrup, they're more willing to try it out. So that's what we're seeing, and not only high school students, but middle school students as well. So I have a quick video. Does it sound? Is it okay? Okay. It should. I'm sorry, I probably should have asked it to stop. And this is actually a video that we use in our homeroom classes when we talk about vaping with the students. And it's just an overview of vaping, overview of different products and why it's become more and more appealing to students.
All right, guys, so we got a little bit. Actually, time before our next shoot. So let's see what's trending on the internet. You know, what's popping. What are you guys talking about? Wow. Adam, vaping? Seriously? That's what's cool? I guess. Ugh. It smells awful though. What is that? Cherry? Cantaloupe? Oh my god. There's three kinds of people. People who vape, people who've heard of it, and people over 50. Now if you're not third category, well, the more the merrier. Okay, so vaping is typically the use of a vaporizer pen or an E-Cig. These pens convert a liquid substance, or e-liquid as it's called, into an inhalable vapor. And this e-liquid can contain nicotine, THC, which is the stuff in marijuana that gets you high, or just plain vegetable glycerin with flavor. A typical vape pen has three parts: a liquid cartridge that holds the e-liquid, a heating element called an atomizer for your technical nerds, and a rechargeable battery used to heat the heating element. And vaping is crazy popular among teens, particularly high school students. A survey done by the National Institute of Drug Abuse claims that in 2017, 1 in 3 high school seniors admitted to using some kind of vape. And of those, 1 in 10 vape with nicotine. In fact, these days, teens are way more likely to vape than they are to smoke. Now, in most states, there are age limits on purchasing and possessing e-cigarettes. Usually you've got to be 18. And in some states, like California, you've got to be 21. But when has the law ever stopped a teen? Often. Alright, you might be thinking, wait, hold up. Why are people even vaping? Why is it so popular among teens? Did we all collectively agree that inhaling substances is bad? Are millennials and Generation Z just contractually obligated to partake in anything that has electronic in its name? Or do people vape, teens especially, for the reason they do most things? It looks cool. You don't though. Definitely not, bro. Definitely not. Unfortunately, in some cases, yeah, it's the cool factor. We can link some of the normalization of vaping to internet memes like the ones you saw at the beginning of the video. It's also become sort of a community called Vape Nation. Vape Nation includes anyone who's ever vaped or even mentioned vaping. And like most things on the internet, it's mainly a joke. Wait, does that mean I'm the joke? Anyways, advertising can also play a role in its popularity. These e-liquids come in fun flavors with colorful labels, flavors like unicorn milk, Chubby's Island, and Bay. So at least we can all find the Bay in some manner, right? Some surveys show that teens do it out of curiosity, or they see it as healthier than smoking. And unlike cigarettes, sometimes you can get away with doing it inside. I mean, one of the most popular brands basically looks like a USB stick. So is it really a healthier alternative to cigarettes? Let's let this handsome man take it away.
Well, Miles, there's actually a lot of conflicting information about e-cigarettes out there. For one thing, until 2016, they weren't regulated by the FDA, so manufacturers didn't have to disclose what actually was in the e-liquid. They could claim that they were nicotine-free or only had a little bit of nicotine or THC, but there was no outside testing to confirm what the companies were putting on the label is actually true. But now, the FDA is regulating them. Their contents will be evaluated to make sure what's on the label is what's in the e-liquid. And since e-cigs are relatively new, it's true that there's still a lot we don't know about the long-term health effects, like if they can cause cancer like traditional cigarettes. But don't get me wrong, there has been some research, so scientists aren't totally in the dark.
Well, thank you, doctor.
Well, you're quite welcome, Miles.
Awesome. Here's what some scientists know. The most obvious is that nicotine is addicting and not good for you, especially in those with developing teen brains. But what about vapes that don't contain nicotine, like the ones whose e-liquid is just vegetable glycerin? A brand spanking new study by researchers at UC San Francisco, released in March of 2018, found that teens who vape, even when the vapes don't have nicotine, are still exposed to some of the same toxic chemicals that are found in cigarette smoke. When vegetable glycerin is heated enough to be vaporized, it can produce toxic substances, toxins that could potentially cause cancer. Now, there's also research that indicates that substituting e-cigarettes for traditional cigarettes with people who already smoke reduces smoker exposure to many toxins. That's why you might hear things that say, it's a healthy alternative to regular cigarettes. But keep in mind, and this may seem the most obvious, not vaping or smoking anything is pretty much the healthier option.
So that is the video that our students see during a homeroom class, just because we know that it is becoming an epidemic, and it's cool, considered cool if your friend is offering you a dab pen or a Juul, and so we're seeing more and more students partaking or even trying it. So with the Juuls, which look like the USB, every single Juul pod contains nicotine. Now, the students may be saying, no, there's no nicotine. Every single Juul pod, whether it's mint, mango, fruit punch, every single one contains nicotine. Whether that be 3% or 5%, there is nicotine in a Juul pod. One pod equals a pack of cigarettes. So we have the students taking, let's say, hits or dabs. They're taking hits all day long, 100, 200 hits. If they're smoking one pod, they're smoking a pack of cigarettes. So students are not knowing how much nicotine they're intaking, as well as everything else that's in you that we don't know. Okay, so we know the dangers of vaping, similar to the dangers of smoking, impact on their brain. We know that a youth's brain is not fully developed, they say, until around 25. So it's easier for them to get addicted to substances. What we've been seeing recently in the news is popcorn lungs and respiratory issues. We're seeing a lot of that. There's, I think, 42 cases in North Carolina alone related to juuling or vaping. Vapors cough, ear, throat, eye infection, gum disease, same as smoking cigarettes, nauseous, being dizzy. We've seen fainting. And we don't know the dangers of aerosol or secondhand smoking because there's not enough information as of right now to know if the aerosol or what they're blowing out is affecting anyone else. Okay, so teen nicotine users, so if students are juuling, they are intaking nicotine. So that's what we've got to keep reiterating or keep bringing up to the forefront, that you might not be smoking, they're like, ew, smoking's nasty, but you're still intaking nicotine, whether you're smoking a cigarette or you're vaping. So students are more likely to be addicted because they're smoking at an earlier age, have depression, anxiety, other mood disorders. Youth may be having difficulty paying attention, concentrating, have reduced impulse control or other substances. I think a lot of high schools are talking about really the paying attention and concentrating. They're saying that it's like a student has ADHD, but it's not, they're having withdrawal symptoms because they haven't been able to take a dab or a hit because classes are 90 minutes, and it's known that after about 45 minutes after not taking a dab or a hit, you're going to start going through withdrawals or feeling withdrawal symptoms. So we talked a little bit about this, so why is juuling so appealing for younger students? Flavors like fruit punch, fruity pebbles, cotton candy may not be that appealing for older people, but from ages 11 to 18, 19, they're going to like these flavors. But again, they still fail to realize that they are intaking nicotine where they're smoking. The most common line for students is, I'm not smoking nicotine, I'm just smoking a flavor. Well, if you're juuling, you're smoking nicotine. What we don't know is with the dab pens, what they are ingesting, because most of the time when they're buying dab pens from online, they really don't know what they're buying. So, what can communities and schools do to help? So, CIS has partnered with Caring Treatments, which is a treatment center that is based in Pennsylvania, to bring a program called Project Connect to all the high schools and a few of the middle schools in Nash County. So what Project Connect is, it's an 8-session nicotine cessation and reduction program. It's designed for adolescents. So this program is designed to help adolescents just be aware of what they're doing when it comes to vaping or nicotine as a whole, and to kind of help not stop, or our goal is to stop, but just for them to be aware of what they're doing and maybe give them some interventions that they can use to help kind of slow down their smoking or vaping. So what they do is they teach techniques. There's open discussion, demonstrations, there's lectures. We have guest speakers come in to talk to the kids. There's a lot of hands-on interaction throughout the 8 weeks. So they focus on communication, stress management, because if they are trying to quit, they are going to have those withdrawal symptoms, decision-making, goal-setting, problem-solving, resilience, and we try to focus on healthy lifestyle choices. So a lot of the students are, well, I can't go a whole day without vaping. So we're going to try to put in place things they can do instead of vaping, whether that be chewing gum. I know some people like to chew gum if they're going through withdrawals, or like giving them healthy snacks, or kind of games or whatever they can play, or having fidget things so they don't have to think about not vaping or not juuling for an 8-hour day. So who can participate? We have, again, this program in all the high schools in Nash Rocky Mount, as well as 3 of the middle schools. So youth who want to make a change, or they know they're juuling, or they think that it's becoming an addiction, they can sign up. Youth who aren't ready to quit but just want more information about vaping. Because kids think they know everything about vaping, but when you start talking to them and giving them the facts, they're like, well, I didn't know that. So this 8-week session is just good for information as well. So Project Connect has been running for about 19 years. Overall quit rate is about 36.1%. And again, our goal is not, for them to quit cold turkey. We just want them to be aware of the dangers of vaping and nicotine, and maybe put some interventions in place for them to kind of stop or slow down. So Can Treatments knows that the facilitators, such as myself and other CIS support specialists, can't do it alone. There's actually online classes for parents or guardians to take. So you can be aware of the signs of youth that are vaping or have a substance addiction. And I can send this out or send this to Ms. Pace. So training does not start, or these modules don't start into January, but it's kind of an 8-week module session for parents to know, I don't know if I can bring it over, more about vaping. I can try to go over, it'd be great.
Should I get it slide up?
Right? Okay, so I'm going to say there. Okay. Okay. So this is the Caring Treatment Center website. So Caring Treatment is, again, who CIS is partnering with to give this 8-week lessons to students, and they have online courses that are starting in January. There are courses for parents or guardians, courses for teens, as well as courses for professionals or teachers as well. And it just goes through and again presents the facts, help kind of with the family. It just gives parents information on whether they can see what their kids are doing, or help, if it's not your student, other students. Why not? not very
Technology is
savvy.
great when it works the way it's supposed to. You need a teenager.
You think I'm young enough to figure this stuff out, but is that what I saw? Okay, so I guess it deleted my last two slides, but it's okay. Does anybody have any questions? I had 16, so I have 14, but okay. Does anybody have any questions about the program or vaping or e-cigarettes?
I don't have a question, just a comment. I've been smoking cigarettes since I was 23 years old. I started in basic training. About a year and a half ago, I started to quit. So I did the pills and, I wasn't buying cigarettes, but I did buy an e-cigarette so I just recently, back in October, completed Nash General Hospital's cardiopulmonary rehabilitation. And what I learned there is that the vaping is worse than the cigarettes. So using the vape pens, and I was just using an e-cigarette, no Juul, anything like that. But what they told us is that the CDC has found out that they're putting a lot of vitamin E oil into the pens and into the Juuls, and that's what's adhering to the lungs. Okay, so 40 years of smoking cigarettes was bad enough. 1 year of toking on a Juul, not a Juul, but an e-cigarette was equivalent to 20 years of smoking. So I just want to put that out there. Okay. I went through the class and I was one of the healthiest ones in there. I'm 64 years old now. And I was one of the oldest, but I was one of the healthiest because I wasn't on oxygen. I didn't have to drag around a tank. I didn't have one strapped to my back. So I'm smoking 1 cigarette a week and I'm taking Chantix. So it's working, but the e-cigarettes, so that's one thing that you can tell your kids. I told Isaiah, but of course he knows everything. Just like the rest of the kids do. Yeah, DC. But it's, and I'm happy to say that none of my 4 children smoke. None of them, So I just wanted to put that out there as firsthand, both cigarettes and e-cigarettes.
Congratulations to you as well.
I'm getting there. It's not hard. If you see Isaiah come in with a black eye, you know why. So don't report me, okay? Don't report me.
I didn't hear that.
He just comes down to my house.
We're good to go?
And-
And I will send Miss Pace that link and she could share it. But again, the classes or modules don't start until January.
And I appreciate Ms. D sharing this. One thing that we as a high school, as an administrator who interact and encounter a lot of this, as many of you know, Mr. Hopkins, who was an assistant principal last year, he had a testing bag where we collect cell phones. So it's a rather, a little bit bigger than a gallon-sized bag. And we had 1 or 2 of those full of e-cigarettes that we had confiscated from last year. Had to dispose of those, and the pack and the stack is starting to build already this year because, as it said by law, many of these are not eligible to have electronic cigarettes, and then by school policy, obviously, we're not supposed to have any tobacco products, and then they also included within the policy even electronic cigarettes. So it's a growing epidemic. Like I said, students that you may not have ever considered even thinking their wildest dreams of having one of these have had them. And we encounter them, or we find out the aftermath after a student is going to the hospital. We've had students in our own school that have been hospitalized for e-cigarettes. So this isn't just something from the outside. This is something that's definitely hitting close to home very quickly. As a former public health major in high school or in college, particulate matter in general. It's not just cigarette smoke, but particulate matter, the small things that attach to your lungs and your alveoli. We don't know the effects of it yet. And that's what we're trying to stress to the students, but unfortunately the Superman mentality kind of reaches them so quickly. And just like you said so well, it almost is like in the news, our case studies come from Minnesota is a huge state that this has been broadcast a lot in, and there are students who have been using e-cigarettes for 1 to 2 years whose lungs look like 60-year-olds, or they've already had to have lung transplants because of the e-cigarette epidemic. So something that definitely have a conversation with your children, your nephews, cousins, all of them really need to hear about this, because like I said, it seems extremely harmless, but it is not. And once the students are addicted, it is very difficult, because just like they said, 1 Juul cartridge is the pack of cigarettes. And so the amount of nicotine that is going in such a small amount, when we confiscate it from the students, they're like, I mean, you can have it, but I mean, I'm gonna have to go get some more, because they're telling us they're addicted to it. And so all of the ones that you saw on as examples, outside of the pipe, we have seen here at the school. Wow. So even the huge ones that, older folks, we've seen all of them here at the school. So please have conversations with your children, because it is very important, and they know the kids that are using them. Some of them joke, they're like, the bathrooms aren't restrooms anymore, they're vape rooms, and like we try to track that down. We're constantly walking in and out of the restroom, but again, it's deeper than that. There needs to be conversations from the home as well. So we greatly appreciate all listening. Like I said, I really appreciate Ms. D and their program actually partnering with our schools to do this.
It's very easy for these kids to get nicotine poisoning. There is such thing as nicotine poisoning, because they can't, like you said, Juul pod is the equivalent of this pack of cigarettes. They just start smoking it. They don't know it.
They don't know. And a lot of students, they'll take 100 hits a day. And they don't know that, 100 hits, that's 1 pod, you're smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. And it's very easily accessible, so really you need to be monitoring their eBay, their Amazon. You can buy electronic cigarettes on eBay and Amazon. You don't need to be 18. You can just click a button and say you're 18. You can buy the juice on Amazon. You don't have to go to smoke shops to access this. That's how easy it is for them to get it. So that's kind of what's scary too. I mean, they can get it so easily.
They just don't know how much they're ingesting. They just suck on it all day long.
Because
They have no idea how much they're taking in.
Let me ask, what are the consequences in the school? I know Isaiah got, I can't remember whether it was a in-school suspension or a 2-day suspension. What are the consequences when you confiscate?
So currently, we have two different levels that it initially falls upon. We have a level 2 consequence, which is like a medium level consequence, and that aligns with what we have in our board policies, with similar to what it was less than 7 years ago that we would do that with our cigarettes, that we were, we're like, wow, we're really cutting down on cigarettes in school, and now this wave came in. But we had a level 2 consequence for when cigarette smoke, so we very much aligned it to that, because it was an electronic cigarette. But now, like Ms. D was saying, we actually have some pens that are identified as having the THC, which is the marijuana and additive within that, and then that we treat just like a controlled substance, which is a level 3 consequence. So we've had both this year, as well as last year and the year before that, to where we've had actual juice that we've come up with. We've had some things that Deputy Sherrod, our school resource officers, had to send off for testing and come back that it actually it's the marijuana or THC that's in it.
And what are the level 2 and level 3 consequences?
So,
like this is your...
Sure. So our level 2 Typically starts, just like we were saying with in-school suspension. Repeated level 2 consequences will just continue to have a more severe consequence. So it'll go from 3 days of in-school suspension or 3 days of in-school or out-of-school suspension, and then out-of-school suspension from there on out for level 2s. Level 3 consequences are right from the start suspension from out of school. So depending on the severity of it, it can be a 3 or a 10-day suspension.
Catch fire, and what I'm gonna be just the bunkers.
And Miss D presented with another lady, and I mean, we're here, so we hear about it a lot more than parents do really, and I mean, literally like a pen like this, I mean, that's what they're carrying around now. And it's to the point now that like, they have it in their shirt sleeve and they'll do it during class. You think they're chewing on a pen. And they inhale it, they don't exhale the smoke. So they could literally be sitting in your class doing it. But one thing that was brought up was like the levels of the THC in it. So if you had like a blunt, if you smoked a blunt, it was like 20% potent. If you ate something with it, so like the weed brownies or gummies and stuff they have is 40%. But if you have it in a pen, it's 90%. So, I mean, it's, exactly, they're high as a kite and you don't even know it, you know?
I had a kid come up to me and said she's standing on that and he decided he wanted to eat. He
And
sat
so it really is scary, and it's the people, I mean, really and truly, it's people you would never think would have it, you know? And I mean, the statistics are really true, like in homerooms, they'll say, you know, if you, like raise a hand, how many people have actually tried it or used it before, and it's 90% of your class, you know? So, even if they don't own it, they may have tried their friends, so it really is something that.
As a former police officer, I'm not surprised by anybody doing anything. It's usually the ones you least suspect.
It is.
It's
Well, you can tell it in the sports and the athletic kids. Last year with the girls going to swim, we could tell it big time in the kids that did swim. You could tell it big time in those kids. So, and that's the sad part, is because they have the ability to be a great athlete, but they let something else control that and take that away from them.
And the sharing of pens goes back to some of the diseases that are passed along within the slides that were there. You sharing a pen, you're passing on your germs as well in many other different ways. So
that's where those ENT issues come along.
We appreciate it.
definitely.
So this is starting in our schools in January, or this is an option to start in the schools?
So this particular program has already started in the school, so I have a few students that are already in Project Connect, so just the modules online so that the parents can be aware, the parents can go through that training. That starts in January.
So we have to enroll our student if we wanted them to have this information.
If you wanted them to take the sessions, you could just go on the website and email me. So go on Southern Nash and just find my email and email me, and you can get set up with parental consent and talking to you and all that.
If a student is caught with an e-cigarette or a vape pen in the school, are they automatically referred to that?
Oh, that's a good point.
we highly recommend to their parents. So that's one of the first conversations that we have with the parents.
I think that should probably be a
assign them
consequence.
to that.
I think that should probably be one of that level.
And are the
first
parents
level.
contacted immediately if they're found with one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And like I said, that's one thing that's been great about. Now, sadly enough, when we trained our staff, we already had 1 or 2 students that had already gotten things confiscated before we even had the program in place.
Mhm.
But then we said to the parents, look, we have this program in place. We would love for your child to get enrolled in it to possibly, have some nicotine cessation or smoking cessation opportunities. And everyone that we refer to, I truly believe that nobody has turned it down for their students at this point. So parents are wanting to get the help, and like I said, in terms of our partnership, we can't mandatorily, but we have been voluntelling some children, in most cases, and their parents have been very
I
supportive.
mean, that could be, you know, a consequence instead of, you know, you do this during your in-school suspension.
Right, and we actually had a program, I keep referring back to like 7 years ago, but there was a lady within the entire district that her job was tobacco cessation. Her name was Miss Rosemary Mitchell. And when you got in trouble, you had to pass the course with her before you could return back. And that program went away about 6, 7 years ago, once you retired.
Something to bring up, you're talking about.
So parents should always have a public input.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Moving right along on the agenda, for the treasurer's report,